Hi everyone, welcome to my page. This is a follow-up on my last video, my last post, which was around the underlying current that I'm personally feeling as a multidimensional intuitive around the abnormal pap smear debacle, I think. Forgive me, this is not my mother language if that wasn't the right word. Yeah, so this is, my last post was kind of around like what I'm seeing as a multidimensional intuitive around that. Again, no medical advice, just my perspective. And a beautiful friend asked me, because in that post I kind of mentioned part of the healing is reconnecting in with our bodies and our womb, and she asked me, well, how do we do that? How do we reconnect to our womb? This is something that I've been doing for a really long time. Can you explain a little bit more about that to me? And yeah, so hence this post to answer that question. Is quite layered and a beautiful question. There's a lot of layers to that, and I can only speak from my own experience. There's quite a lot of women that do womb work, that talk about this, that have done their own studies on this, but this is from my personal experience, and I'm just going to explain what it's been for me in the hope that it might help some other women out there. So the first thing is, I think, is looking at our feminine programming, which is that, you know, there's a lot of us are codependent, people pleasing, saying yes when your body is saying no, and reestablishing that reconnection to ourselves where we can actually start to pick up on when it is a no and when it is a yes, and acting on that. And I think that makes just that is quite really goes in against what we've been taught as women, even now with, you know, feminism, the Me Too movement, or, you know, it's still, there is a polarity happening still where we're being pushed to stand up for ourselves, but when we do, the reaction often is that we are not nice people, that we're bitches, that we're difficult. So we're going from the suppression into, you know, the information is out there, but then when we actually do it, we often end up isolated, which is the journey that a lot of us, as you know, I think for people that have been on this type of a journey, are very much experiencing. Coming back into the self, you lose a few people. And so that's the first thing, I think, is really starting to understand, where are my no's? Who am I? Who actually am I? And when is my body telling me that this is not okay and I need to speak up about this? So a lot of it has to do with the throat, I think, and listening to, you know, and especially when it comes to the womb, who am I letting into my womb? You know, saying yes to sex when our bodies is saying no, when our womb is saying no. So that is, you know, embodying who we are, embodying our boundaries, saying no when it is a no, and not saying yes when it is a no. Stop people pleasing, etc. And then, so the next thing for me probably would have been trauma processing. So the next thing is that there's a lot of trauma stored in that area. So we've got a lot of trauma stored in our pelvic area. And for me, I really needed support with that. So I worked with embodiment therapists, EMDR. And just, I think a lot of women hold a lot of suppressed rage because of that, because we've been suppressing our needs for so long. It's not the men's fault either, because they also have been programmed. Whose fault it is, I won't go into that. I do think something is at fault, but I don't think we should be blaming men. I think that's something that is quite dangerous to do. And so, yeah, because they also have their own programming that happened, you know, they've been sent to wars, they've been fragmented and traumatized for hundreds and thousands of years like that as well, you know, so. And And so that's that. So trauma stored and start moving that, and that's an ongoing journey. Like I really don't believe in healed people, healed men, or healed. It's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing journey. The whole healing of the whole reconnecting to the self, reconnection to the womb. It's a journey. And then, of course, we've got societal and cultural programming, which is that we're being told that that our vaginas are shameful. Some people can't even say the word. They feel like they don't smell good down there. They use the word down there. They can't even say vagina or pussy. They are disgusted by their bleeds, etc. So when our bleeds are actually, God moves in rhythm. God moves in rhythm. So as women, God manifested the world. It's in rhythm. Everything moves in rhythm. So this feminine body that we've got is like, it's very in tune with that, right? And our periods, our bleeds are just a beautiful manifestation of that, right? So it's also a coming back to reconnecting to our cycles and seeing what an amazing thing that is, to have this creational portal and go through these cycles. And so, if you can't even touch your vagina, like, you're afraid of it, like that's such a disconnection, right? Which is, again, part of this systematic way of, fragmenting, traumatizing, and confusing people to keep them, under control. And so another really important thing is safety. Do we feel safe as a woman? Do we feel safe being seen as a woman? Has there been things that occurred in your life that on a subconscious level made you think that sexuality is unsafe, that having a vagina has made you a prey? Because I sure do. It's something that I'm still working through, for sure. So I think safety is another really big one, and that also disconnects us from our femininity. Like, if we're afraid of being a woman because and that's like nothing, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, this is just what has occurred, right? It's just a natural response to the things that we've experienced. And very likely we are going to need different experiences in order to help that heal as well. Right, so that's that part. And then, so now I'd like to get into the more spiritual side of it. And I'm just going to try and do that really gently. It's going to resonate for some people, it might not for others. So, and some people are really into this work and already know this, right? So I'm just going to start here, right? So this planet this planet moves in a system that has been manufactured. It is not the organic way that God intended it to be. There has been an interference, an off-planet interference here. And so I'll get to how that ties in with HPV and cervical dysplasia and the disconnection from the womb really soon. In order to understand why there is an attack on the feminine, in order to understand why we feel so incredibly disconnected from our womb, there has to be a basic understanding of how the structure at hand has manipulated and mind control people into thinking that femininity is lesser than, and that the womb portal has to be either obstructed or taken from. And so to create a deeper understanding of that, I will have to explain that the structure at hand is run by beings that have cut themselves off from God and are not able to sustain themselves unless they are able to siphon life force energy of other beings. And this, with the Epstein files coming out, I don't think that's that with the satanism and the things that entails and all the things that are coming out around that. I don't think that's too far-fetched for people to understand at this point, right? So the feminine, the womb space is a creational portal. I'm just going to close my door for 2 seconds. The feminine, so the womb portal is a space that generates an immense amount of life force energy. It's the portal through which souls come into the world, right? And this is like the beautiful responsibility that we have as women, which is why we're so in sync with rhythms and with God. It's because we hold that portal. So in order to create an understanding of why there's such an attack on this, you have to understand that there's an element to the way that the system functions that is anti-life force. It is anti-life. It's dead. It can't evolve. It's already dead. It perpetuates this cycle of keeping people in a trauma loop so that they can keep siphoning, right? And then this branches out into so many different areas. And I think it's really important to understand that this is a fallen structure. So we come here, the system has fallen, right? So we are operating from an interface that has been created. Some people call it the false matrix, which is the structure that is functioning around the planet. The planetary grid systems have been infiltrated, which is what grid workers do. We go in and we start healing, helping to heal the planetary grids, right? And so in order to understand why this attack is happening, we have to understand that there is an attack on humanity, basically. There's an attack on humanity, but especially on the feminine, because the feminine is close to God. So is the masculine, but it's different. And the womb portal is just this, it's this very, it just has a very strong life force energy in it, to say it simply, to keep it simple. So when we go into that space, from a multidimensional point of view, there is energetic obstructions. There can be energetic obstructions, and we all do, in there that we can clear out. Which, I mean, I've seen things from siphoning devices to dark portals to, I don't know, hooks, clamps. And then that's very individual. Like that would tie in with different, there's different reasons why these different aspects of implants can be found there. So that's another aspect to it. I think it's very important to have an understanding of that and to reclaim that sovereignty of that womb energy by understanding that there is a siphoning structure on the planet that is trying to suppress and harvest. And this is how I link that in with the operations. It's like it has a lot to do with how the womb portal has been siphoned. Often the hospitals are placed on grid nodes that have, grid structures that have nodes, overlapping ley lines on them. So they become these that originally in God's original plan would have been a way to push energy through for ascension. By putting hospitals or putting a battleground on there, they actually darken the grids. So the hospitals are on there, and these traumatic experiences, these pains, the sadness, the fear, it gets all sucked into those grid structures. So for some people, this is going to be a little bit out there, but that's part of like having an understanding of how the multidimensional structure at hand is operating is also very important to understanding how to reconnect to the womb. So there's a lot of different layers to it. Let me know if any more questions arise. Just got to cut it short at that because I'm almost at 20 minutes there. Let's do a womb clearing. Let's do a group womb clearing or a circle. If you've made it this far through my posts, then just comment below. If you are up for that, I can organize one. I can make a separate group and organize womb clearing and women's circle in there. And lots of love, and I hope that